Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, and in this video I am playing the new Warhammer 40k Warpforge game. It is a collectible card game which is set for release in 2023, but currently it is available to play a demo from January 19th to the 22nd. They actually did a demo before, I think it was back in October, but I didn't know about it until it was already over. So I didn't get a chance to play. So this was my very first experience playing the game, and so I just played through several tutorials. That's what we're looking at here in this video, and I just want to kind of share my first impressions and thoughts about the game so far after playing it for about an hour. So if you're not familiar with Warpforge, it is made by the same studio that made Horus Heresy Legions, and is basically just a 40k version of that game. Horus Heresy Legions, in turn, is basically a clone of Hearthstone, which of course is a clone of Magic the Gathering. So they're all very similar games. This in particular is very similar to Hearthstone. Basically you have your hero. The key difference, I guess, is your hero is an actual card in the center of the field, which you see here. In this first tutorial, you are playing as Uriel Ventress against Marneus Calgar. And you have a deck of cards. You can deploy bodyguards, which are called troops in this game, to protect your warlord and attack enemies. And then in addition to that, you also have these stratagem cards, which are like the spells in Hearthstone. So, you know, when compared to like Warhammer combat cards, this is a much more complex game, and it was made for multiplayer. So that's where you get the most satisfaction from it, I think. There's just so many more variables and so many different cards and possibilities that you can never predict what's really going to happen next. So that's what makes it a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to the multiplayer. So the factions you can play as in the tutorial, or in this demo, are Space Marines, Orcs, and Necrons. I think once the game is released, we'll also see Eldari and Tyranids, and I'm sure we'll see Chaos as well. Wouldn't really be a Warhammer game without Chaos. So lots of factions, and lots of cards for each, and I'm sure there will be sub-factions as well, kind of like in Horus Heresy Legions. They had a whole lot of warlords, which of course were added to the game over time. But yeah, basically the gameplay, again, very similar to Hearthstone. You have energy, I think is what it's called, over on the right hand side, which you spend on your cards. Each card costs a certain amount of energy, and they have 2 attack values. You got melee and a ranged attack. So anytime you make an attack, you can choose one of those attack values, and then it deals the damage to the enemy card, but the enemy card also gets a chance to retaliate immediately with the same attack type. So, like if you have a strong ranged unit like this Devastator Centurion, it has 7 ranged attack and 4 melee. So you'll, in general, want to attack units which have like a weaker attack type, so you'll take less damage when you're attacking, right? And then I think one of the key differences, I only played Horus Heresy Legions for just a little bit, so I'm not super familiar with it, but I believe in that game your warlord had an ability which cost energy to use, but in this game your warlords seem to all generate a card at the start of your turn, and each card, the card is unique to that warlord. Each one has a different ability, and it does cost energy to use, but that card disappears at the end of your turn, but then you just get it back, so you can use it each turn. It basically functions in the same way as the special ability that the warlord had in Horus Heresy Legions. It's also like the hero powers in Hearthstone. But I guess the difference is your warlord can still attack. Like I think in Horus Heresy Legions you had to choose between the ability or the attack for your warlord, but now your warlord can just always attack. The game, of course, looks and sounds great. I really like the backgrounds here, like the 3-dimensional battlefield you're playing on. It looks amazing. Definitely a lot better looking than Warhammer combat cards. The artwork on the cards is also great. It's more modern looking. I mean, I'm sure people liked kind of the classic charm of the art on Horus Heresy Legions, but I kind of prefer the art in this game. Every card also has a voice line when you play the card, which is pretty cool. In Warhammer combat cards, there's no voice at all. So it's fun to listen to all those voice lines. I think they've done a pretty decent job on the cards themselves. There are plenty of different abilities, so I was counting all the keywords. And this game definitely is a lot more complex, again, than Warhammer combat cards, so there's kind of a steeper learning curve, especially if you never played other similar games like Horus Heresy or Hearthstone. If you have played those games, this will be a lot more intuitive. But as of right now, just in this demo, I counted 24 different keywords. Many of these are shared by cards in different factions, but some are actually unique to each to the faction. So, for example, I think Space Marines have the Codex keyword, which only it's an ability that triggers once you've used all of your energy in that turn. And then Orcs have the Mob keyword, you can see right here, which is an ability that triggers after one of your cards makes a melee attack. So it can trigger multiple times per turn, like that Orc boy just keeps attacking for free, which is pretty cool. I think the Necrons have the Remnant keyword, so when one of their cards dies, they can actually be resurrected, which is very, appropriate for Necrons. So they did a great job making each faction feel unique. The gameplay, or the play style for each faction is definitely much different. And of course the cards themselves are very different. Each faction does have pretty similar cards, like these sort of airstrike stratagem cards. But yeah, overall, really nice job on the cards. Again, the artwork looks good. The one kind of minor gripe I have is that when you're deploying cards on the field, at least when you're first learning the game, it is a little bit hard to tell what's going on. I think I'm just used to the very simple and clear visuals of Warhammer combat cards. And of course, in that game, you only have 3 cards on each side, whereas in this game, you can deploy, I think, up to like 8. I think it's 8 troops and your Warlord, so that's like 9 cards on one side at a time. And when they're deployed like that on the field, sometimes they look kind of similar. Like some of the artwork is very similar. Like for Space Marines, at least you're playing as Ultramarines, so everything's blue. So it's a little bit harder to tell what's going on at a glance. But of course you can scroll over the cards. You can always look at them up close, and it will tell you exactly what all of the abilities do at any time. Combat system took a little bit of time to kind of get used to, because you always have those 2 attack types and you have to choose the one. Sometimes I accidentally use the melee instead of the ranged attack, so that also takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but it's fairly straightforward. The one other kind of strange thing that I thought about the game is that just how the Warlords work. So we're going to be looking at the Necrons here in this battle. So the Warlords all pretty much have the same stats. You can see here both Warlords, we're playing as Nemazor Zondrek against, I think, Oricon, the Diviner. But both of them have both 2 melee and 2 ranged attack, and I think pretty much every Warlord in the game has those same attack stats. And then they have 35 health to start. Some of the Warlords actually have more, I think 40 health, like Marnius Calgar, and then I think Gazgul Thraka and Imhotep, I believe, all have a little bit more starting health on their card. That is the stratagem card that I just played that's unique to Zondrek. So you can just summon extra Necron warriors to the field, and you can see the little remnant remaining there, which just got resurrected back onto the field. So pretty cool mechanics there. But yeah, again, with the Warlords, so they all deal like 2 damage. which seems kind of strange when you've got like bodyguards that deal a lot more damage. But I think that's just the style of the game, and it's kind of necessary for balance reasons for it to be that way. So, and there are cards that do buff your Warlord. So some Warlords, rely more on like special abilities or mass amounts of troops, whereas other Warlords can become very strong themselves and deal a lot of damage through attacking. So, really looking forward to seeing the other factions, though. Eldari should be interesting. Tyranids for sure. Big fan of Nids, so I can't wait to see those in the game. There's still no release date, as far as I know, for the game. I know it's supposed to come out in 2023, but we don't really know when. So, hopefully, in the near future. But, yeah, just playing through these tutorials. Playing a few games here. I did actually play a couple multiplayer games, and I really enjoyed them. I was a little bit worried at first because I was just playing against the AI. It was like a mirror match, Necrons against Necrons, and the game took so long. I think just the ability to resurrect the cards and stuff, I think the game dragged on for a good 15 minutes at least. And I'm like, I really hope the games are not going to last this long. Because that's one thing that I really want to, I guess, know about this game is it one that I want to play for the long term? And one that I want to, make content about? Is it going to be fun to watch? Will it be fun to talk about? And I wasn't so sure, just playing against the AI there. But then once I started playing against people, you can play multiplayer in this demo. I think playing against people is definitely a lot more fun than playing against the AI. Like in Warhammer Combat Cards, again, the PvP is really not that great. It's not much different than playing against the AI because you only have a few things that you can do, a few choices you can make, like where to deploy your cards, which card to deploy, and then which attack type to use. But in this game, there's so many more abilities and things that you can target, and just a lot of different combos. Like certain cards will synergize with others. You can trigger abilities based off cards you play or attacking and stuff. So there's just so many different things you can do that, again, it's not really, it's a lot harder to predict how the battle's going to go. And the battle can swing too. Like you could be losing and then all of a sudden make a huge comeback. So it's just a lot more exciting. So I think it'll be a fun game once I get the hang of it to make more content about. But let me know what you think. If you think this is a game that you'd like to watch me play, please let me know in the comments. Of course, once the actual game comes out, I can do more like sort of tutorial type videos, talk about different aspects of the game. Like I could definitely do a video just talking about the keywords, breaking those down and explaining those, because that, again, there's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of the keywords are actually kind of the exact same ones that you see in like Hearthstone, for example. Rally is one that you see a lot. Rally is basically like Battle Cry from Hearthstone, where it's just an ability that triggers when you play the card. And then sort of the opposite of that is Backlash, which is like Death Rattle. So when the card dies, the ability triggers. And you've got some keywords that are actually the same as combat cards. So you've got like Blast, which is the same as Barrage, where it deals damage to adjacent units when attacking. And then you've got Regeneration, which is a lot stronger in this game. You see a lot of Necron cards with that one. But since cards have much lower like health, this is one thing I forgot to talk about. In the lower right-hand corner, that is the amount of hit points that the unit has. So because it's a lot lower in this game than in combat cards, it's a lot easier, I suppose, to destroy cards, but also any healing will also have a much larger effect. So I realized that when playing the Necrons, I was like attacking a card and then it just kept healing back up to full health. I'm like, oh, I guess you really have to focus all your firepower into that and try to destroy it in one turn. So A lot of little things like that that you just sort of figure out as you play the game. I'm hoping that the progression in the game will be decent. I think the game, so it's going to be released on Steam at first. I believe it'll be only Steam, and then maybe at some point in the future it will come out for mobile. Horus Heresy Legions, of course, is also on mobile. So not sure what the monetization and all that will be. I think it'll be free to play, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, that is one thing with the Horus Heresy Legions. Like at first it seemed like a lot of fun, but then I realized, wow, the progression, it's so slow. It takes so long to actually unlock any cards that I just don't really want to commit the time. Especially knowing that this game was coming out in the near future. I'm like, don't really want to get into that so much. So yeah, hopefully this game will be a little bit better about that. I guess the last thing I could sort of talk about is, again, the visual aspects. So the attack animations and stuff, they look pretty decent. Some of the attack animations were actually the exact same as the Horus Heresy Legions, so I was a bit disappointed by that, like with the Space Marines, how it just looks the exact same. You'd think that they would have maybe updated the visuals a little bit, considering how old the Horus Heresy Legion is, but they do have a lot of nice looking animations and visuals though. The sound, the music is kind of generic sounding, like battle music, so nothing too special. I actually prefer the music in Warhammer combat cards, I think. But having voice lines is definitely really nice in this game, so it gives it a little bit more character. And well, you got giant cards like this Monolith, which just have insanely powerful abilities. Just like in Hearthstone, anything that costs like 10 mana is going to be insanely strong usually. So yeah, I'm not sure how balanced everything is, but yeah, that's just something we'll just have to see as we play the game. So those are my first thoughts of the game. Let me know if you have played this. If you're interested, definitely check it out. Again, it's on Steam just for the next couple days. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.